Welcome, Bulldog fans, to Davis Wade Stadium in Scott Field, where not a good evening for the Bulldogs, a 45-19 final against Georgia. Let's first talk about Georgia, number one team in the country, and in a lot of ways tonight they look like the number one team in the country, and a team, as both Mike Leach and Will Rogers said, full of five-star recruits.
Well, I tell you one of the things that struck me, David, watching this Georgia machine, and take no credit away from Georgia, is the way they utilize their tight ends. And in this era of the spread offense, people are kind of placing a premium on speed. So as a result, you get nickel and dime packages. And they come out there with these three incredibly athletic tight ends, and it's a mismatch. And you double one guy, then the other guy's free. And I thought they utilized tight end play tremendously. The boot game was great. The rollout game was great. The play action game was good. But yeah, Georgia was really good. They did pretty much what they wanted to in the second half, but State really gave them a game in the first half.
You mentioned tight ends. Of course, we talked to Zach Arnett about that. We asked him the question, how do you defense them? He said, well, for one thing, Georgia has all the tight ends in the country right now. And they use them well for their first touchdown of the game. Mismatches, as you say. Georgia didn't run the ball maybe as well as they particularly do. Stetson Bennett was relatively contained in the run game, but they got a couple of explosive plays out of that really balanced out their passing attack today.
Oh, they did. And a lot of it, too, David, there is a talent differential between Georgia and Mississippi State, and in many respects, the rest of the country. I mean, these are the defending NAFL champions for a reason, and they looked at tonight, too. I mean, again, I thought State came out and competed hard and eventually kind of wore down, but Georgia's an impressive football team. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Kirby Smart's done a tremendous job recruiting and developing players, and in many respects, some would say, and there's probably a changing of the guard right now in the Southeastern Conference between Georgia and Alabama. And I think this Georgia team is really, really scary and certainly capable of winning again.
Yeah, I think that change has been taking place for the last couple of years since Smart went over there and did what Georgia probably should have always done, been at this level. Now, let's talk about how the Bulldogs played them or did not play, as the case may be. Defensively, I thought Zach Arnett was aggressive. I thought he tried to make things happen. Yes, Georgia had a lot of talent, but they kind of picked their spots too. State would get them behind the chains a couple of plays, and as Mike Leach said, they would make something happen in those third downs to keep the chains moving.
They did, and Georgia beat the State secondary in those 50-50 balls more times than not. We did get Emmanuel Forbes back tonight. Not quite 100%. We've been told for 2 weeks how much he really wanted to play in his football game, be here for his team, and wanted to play last week and just wasn't capable of doing so. Good to have him back, which bodes well for the home stretch, final two ball games. But Georgia, I thought that's where the talent differential showed up the most. It's their wide receivers against the Bulldog defensive backs. And Bennett just kind of threw it up there, and his guys went and made plays for him. And, State at times got some good rush into Bennett's face and forced some errant throws. And there were a couple times when State made the play and the officials said, no, this drive is going to continue. Mike Leach really getting dangerously close to the line in postgame, as you've seen, David, but not quite a finable offense just yet. But
I don't know. I think in Birmingham they could find ways to find something if they really wanted to. And a show of hands out there, who else was looking desperately for a flag as Xavier Thomas broke that punt return upfield?
That's true, and you're right, David. I joked on Twitter that Thomas got upfield so fast, Mark Carls didn't have time to reach for his flag, But and what a gutsy play that was, David. I mean, it's like Georgia's trying to go 2 for 1. They're thinking, hey, we get the ball coming out of the half. If we can go put one in here and then score coming out, this game is over. But instead, it's a 17-12 ball game. And Xavier Thomas takes it. It was a low worm burner type punt. He picks it up and got a huge block. I believe it was Dylan Johnson. I believe it was.
Yeah, I think it was Simeon Price. Simeon Price got the downfield block, and there was an upfield block as well by Ra Thomas that actually opened it to that side.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's guys working together. That's not a called play. I mean, that's just guys knowing how to play football. And all of a sudden, and I asked Will Rogers about this in postgame, what was the half team locker room like? And they're like, hey, we're the number one team in the country. We're in a one-possession game. And then you go out there and you make a play and you think, okay, we got a chance to get off the field here. And then very well-designed play that there was a block in the back on right in front of the linesman down here. And that's the thing, too. I think I speak for everybody. So, listen, Georgia didn't need any help. Georgia was going to win this game anyway. But the officials made sure when things got a little bit tight that Georgia was going to get, the benefit of some no calls. But I get so sick and tired of hearing about all these letters from Birmingham. Oh, we're sorry. It's like when they mess up your dry cleaning. I mean, it doesn't mean anything. The bottom line is we want to win football games, and while Mississippi State, the chances of State winning this game were pretty minuscule. You didn't get a fair called game tonight, and that happened against Alabama. And again, I don't think Alabama needed help either, but there is an officiating problem within the Southeastern Conference, and I don't know that too many people are that worried about it. I think there are a lot of people in Birmingham that have this attitude of just shut up and cash the check.
And, of course, you can tell we both use the same dry cleaner in that regard. But, yeah, I saw the block in the back you referred to. I think State also, Jaden Crumity, nearly had his right arm pulled off as he was chasing down Bennett, and many other plays that we could point to. A really dubious pass interference call, some things like that. Did it change the game? No. It changed the margin, which matters in certain places out in more drier locales than here. Point being, as you say, Georgia didn't need the help. And I think some of those flags kind of took some of the energy out of the Bulldogs, too, which is inevitable. You're playing as hard as you can, and you're not rewarded in that regard. All right, speaking of not rewarded, let's turn to the offensive side. State just could not run the ball again. And as Will Rogers said, yes, those are 5 stars on the side of the line, but he also said they've got to do a better job getting into the right plays to even have a chance to make the run game work. So it was something State wanted to do. Georgia, best defense in the country, was not going to let it happen.
And that's true. And I'll be honest with you, I think State's got to do some things to help themselves in that situation. I thought Woody Marks needed to be in the ball game more early in the first half when State was trying to get it going. Dylan Johnson's still not quite 100%. He's not. And listen, we love DJ. We're not in any way talking negatively about him. He
made a great block in there, but he's not getting downfield.
Sure.
That's just what he is.
He just doesn't look real steady on his feet right now. And again, he had a procedure here a few weeks ago, so he's still kind of getting back. But, Woody is running angry right now, and there is a burst with him that I don't know that we've seen until this year. And so the substitution pattern kind of confused me a little bit. I thought, hey, why isn't Woody out here in these situations? I think State's got to do things that are conducive to running the football, not just calling a running play. I think some of that's personnel. And listen, give the offensive line credit for some things. I mean, they gave up to 1 sack tonight, and Georgia's not a prolific pass rushing team, but they were in Hendon Hooker's face all week last week. And State needed to answer the bell after a bad game against Auburn on the offensive line, where you give up, 5-6 sacks, including the one to the punter. But I could talk about punting all day, but I'm not going to. The bottom line is State lost to a better team, and now we just kind of begin to look forward that, State now 6-4 with 2 winnable games left to play. The last one would be right here, East Tennessee State. And then we'll head to Oxford in November on Thanksgiving. And these are games that State can win. And to be honest with you, we all expect to win next week, and it's always a toss-up in the Egg Bowl. But this year, that's a difference between maybe a decent season and a good season. And so State's got to find a way to go get it done.
I don't want to beat that dead horse of the offense too much, but let's talk a little bit more about the missed opportunities. The drops return tonight. Yeah. And, we can talk about the 4th and 1 call to Woody Marks. Do you throw it to him in that situation? Maybe is he supposed to break a tackle in that situation? That's really irrelevant if Ra Thomas catches the ball in the end zone, which is there. Does it change the game, win the game? Probably not. But when you see guys dropping the passes that are on target, it just frustrates all the more. You see the potential this offense has at times, and just something is not quite clicking here and there.
Well, and some would say, well, it's cold weather. It was cold weather for Georgia, too. Now, they had a couple of balls, too, that were drops, and I think they'll be honest about that, too. There were a couple passes that they should have had that they didn't bring in. State had a bunch tonight, and it wasn't just rah-rah. Rah-rah had, I think, 2 or 3, but it wasn't just rah-rah. And I thought Will's ball placement got better as the game moved forward. But it's a unit, I mean, he can't throw it and catch it, and there are times when they're ready to catch it and his ball placement's off. So everybody's got to get better on every side of the battery there. But it's behind us now, Dave. It's the game is behind us, and many people expected State to lose this game handily. They did. I did think State came to compete tonight. There was any sense of rolling over tonight.
So Mississippi State now 6-5 on the season, hosting East Tennessee State. 6-4. That's right. You start losing track. You get further in the season here. Maybe I'm just getting too old for this. But no, Mississippi State 6-4, 3-4 SEC, hosting East Tennessee State at 11 a.m. next week to finish out their home season. Of course, State expects to win that game. Be interesting to see if maybe Mike Leach is able to use a few bench guys, although he doesn't really tend to do that even in blowouts. Larger point being, you want to use this week to tune up on some things. And some reporters wanted to go ahead and start looking forward to the Egg Bowl after this game, but I think Leach said it well. you're only working on yourself this week. You're not even working on the opponent. Mississippi State is still in the we've got to get better stage because, again, this is still a building stage in this program. You've got to take advantage of this week, not just East Tennessee, the practices this week, and set yourself up for a chance to close out the regular season and, as you say, get in a better bowl, in a warmer bowl.
And after today, I'm all about going to Florida and being in a warmer bowl. I mean, I'm from South Mississippi, and we weren't really built for this. But reality of it is, David, it's all there for State to take. If State can play at its best, highest level of efficiency, State can win these last 2 ball games and get in a good ball game somewhere.
So, 2 South Mississippi boys here talking about the Bulldogs game tonight with our cameraman Mike Nemeth. I'm starting to run together there. I should have had one more root beer tonight. I'm running short on caffeine at this point.
Least moonlighting.
Something like that. Well, he's well paid enough. He can probably handle that job as well. So, Mississippi State now getting ready for East Tennessee, morning game, final home game, senior day for the Bulldogs as well, and then the Egg Bowl after that. We'll be talking all week about the upcoming game and the closing run. By the way, we'd be remiss if we didn't give a congratulations to MSU Soccer.
Yes.
Won their first ever NCAA tournament game here on campus the other day, now advanced to play in the second round. And, of course, Bulldog basketball and Lady Ball basketball off to flying starts already. So good things happening there. Just got to get football fixed this week and move on into the next week in the closing stretch of the season. So for our entire crew from Gene's Page, Robbie Falk, Paul Jones, Mike Nemeth, and Steve Robertson, this is David Murray from Davis Wade Stadium saying good evening.